Part 1. Moving. Peter Sanders didn't believe in ghosts. He thought they were fiction, invented by bored grandmothers and underwritten writers. So when he moved with his wife and young son into an old Victorian house on the outskirts of Elmwood Township, he was not deterred by local stories of strange noises at night and flickering lights in the windows. The house stood at the top of a gentle hill, staring out at the street with blind windows, as if waiting for someone to breathe life back into it. The closet in the second-floor bedroom was odd wooden, built into the wall, as if it had been added long before the house was inhabited. Peter noticed that the back wall of the closet was a little darker than the rest of the closet, as if it had recently been replaced. Part 2. Knocking. The first night Peter woke up to a strange knocking sound. Knock, 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 knock. 3 times, crisp and measured. He got out of bed, thinking it was mice or a draft, and walked around the house with a flashlight. The sound, it turned out, was coming from the closet. He opened the doors. Nothing, just musty-smelling shelves and an old coat rack. But when he went back to bed and closed his eyes, the knocking was repeated. Knock, knock, knock. Only now it came from inside the closet. Part 3. Son. On the 4th day of the move, his 5-year-old son Alex said, "Dad, there's someone living in the closet. He called me yesterday, said he wanted to play." Peter was wary, but he put it down to imagination. Children like to make up their own friends, especially in a new place. He went to his son's room and looked in the closet. It was empty, but the smell of dampness was stronger, as if someone had been living in it. "It's just old furniture," he told his wife, but an uneasiness had already settled inside him. Part 4. Nails. Peter decided to open the back of the closet. He removed a few boards and realized that behind it was a void, a cold, dark cavity. He slipped his hand in there with a flashlight. The beam revealed a piece of rotten wood, and next to it, a ladder going down. It wasn't just an alcove, it was a room, or, more likely, a passageway. Part 5. The room. The next evening, when his wife and son had left for Grandma's, Peter made up his mind. He took a flashlight, gloves, knife, and went into the closet. At first, silence, then the steps down which he descended, carefully placing foot after foot. The smell of dampness grew stronger, the coolness of the basement in the air, but the walls around him were not brick, but wood, covered with strange symbols scratched out with something sharp. There was a room downstairs. In it stood an old table, a child's high chair, and a mirror. But the mirror didn't reflect Peter. Instead, there was someone else standing in it, a man in tattered clothes, with empty eye sockets and blood on his lips. He reached through the glass. Part 6. Whispers. Peter flew out of the room, scrambling upwards in a panic. A whisper could be heard behind him, as if someone was speaking directly into his ear. "Don't leave me. Come back. You want to play too." The closet slammed shut with a clatter just as he sprinted out into the bedroom. He tried to run out of the house, but the front door wouldn't budge. It was like a nightmare. In the morning, the house seemed normal. The closet was closed. The boards were still in place, as if he hadn't opened anything. The wife was back. The son was playing merrily with his toys. But that night Peter heard the knocking again. Knock, knock, knock. Part 7. Alex. A week later, Peter woke up and didn't find his son in bed. The room was empty. The windows were closed. He found an open closet, and in it, shifting boards and little footprints on the dusty floor. He went downstairs. The room was waiting again. Alex was sitting in the chair, only it wasn't his son anymore. He stared with empty eyes and whispered, "Daddy, he says you have to stay." The mirror flashed. A shadow came out of it, the same one as before. It stepped toward Peter. Part 8. Darkness. Peter tried to run, but with each passing second he felt his legs becoming absorbent cotton, his breath hitching, and his head filling with voices. He realized that no one would save him. No one would hear him. He stayed there. Now, they say, the closet in the Sanders house is boarded up again. The house is empty, and at night, you can see a faint flicker from his second-floor window. And if you stop near the house and listen, you can hear knock, 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 3 times, like an invitation. 1. The village that is silent. The village of Sternwood was off the maps. Even the oldest GPS navigators refused to show the way there. Those who got there never came back. Or they did, but different ones. The locals didn't talk about Sternwood. Even the cops who got a call from there were more likely to lose their signal or break their car than actually get there. But that's where Nicholas Lee, a journalist and author of a blog about forgotten places, headed. He came across a mention of Sternwood in a faded newspaper from 1954. The last article from there read, "He's calling again, pray." No signature, no explanation. 2. Welcome to Sternwood. He arrived in the village on a cloudy October day. The air was thick as an abandoned attic and smelled of wet wood and mold. The houses were as if dead, with broken windows and doors hanging on a single hinge. But worst of all, there was a bell ringing somewhere. Not a church bell. The sound was mechanical, metallic, like an old doorbell. It rang with a rhythm, like it had a pulse. And every time it rang, the birds above the village soared into the sky, and somewhere far away, someone moaned. 3. The bell ringer's house. In the center of the village stood a house almost untouched by time. It was wooden, tall, and had a turret, like a small church. It was from there that the ringing came. There was a sign on the door, "The Bell Ringer. Don't come in, never." Nicholas ignored it. Inside smelled of wax and dust. Portraits hung on the walls, some without faces, others with faces but with black veils over their eyes. A stack of letters lay on the floor, and on each one was the same: "He calls when he comes. Don't open the door after the 3rd ring." 4. Diary of a missing girl. In one of the rooms, Nicholas found a diary. Judging by the handwriting, it was written by a girl about 10 years old. "Mommy says the bell ringer lives in the tower. She hears him calling for me. I told her I didn't want to go, but she said Daddy would go then. Daddy went 2 days ago. I heard him screaming in the night, and then there was a 3rd ringing." Nicholas felt a chill run down his spine. The journal shivered with drops that looked like blood. Suddenly there was another ringing sound downstairs. Once. 5. The 3rd bell. Nicholas froze. The ringing repeated. 2. He went downstairs. An antique brass bell hung by the door. It swung by itself, without a string. Outside the door, silence. Then a 3rd chime, and immediately there was a knock on the door. "Don't open," something whispered from the darkness. He stepped back. The door shuddered, as if someone were scraping at it with their nails. Then a rattle. Someone tried to enter, but they couldn't. A stain appeared on the floor, like a drop of ink. It was spreading, like it was alive. Nicholas stepped back, and then the bell began to ring continuously. 6. Shadows of the past. He ran away. The streets of the village were now swarming with shadows. They were as elusive as a mirage, but Nicholas could feel them following him. They were everyone who had ever answered the 3rd bell. Their faces were distorted like masks, and there was emptiness in their eyes. Nicholas took refuge in the basement of one of the houses. There he found a body almost mummified. In the dead man's hand was a note. "He calls to choose. 1 answer is 1 guest. 3rd call is an opening. Sternwood is a trap. Don't call yourself." He remembered that he had touched the bell himself when he entered the house. 7. The time trap. Time went differently in Sternwood. Nicholas hadn't slept in 3 days, but he didn't feel tired. The days didn't change. Eternal night, gray skies. Rumors turned into reality, and every time the bell rang, he felt his thoughts become not his. He saw someone walking down the road. A girl. She was pale, with white eyes, and when she spoke, her voice was adult. "You're a ringer now." And she disappeared. 8. Absorption. Nicholas tried to drive away. The car wouldn't start. There was no cell phone reception. The forest around the village was now a steel wall. Every house inside was empty, and everyone was ringing. He went back to the bell ringer's house. His portrait now hung on the wall, with his face draped in a black veil. He shouted, but behind his back came the first ringing. 9. The curse. 3 years passed. No one has seen Nicholas. Only sometimes, on particularly foggy evenings, travelers hear a ringing in the distance. They say it's the wind, but the old men who still remember Sternwood shake their heads, because if you hear 3 bells ringing, don't answer it, and don't open the door. And if you do, you'll be the next Bellman.